Like that? He says, pointing behind you. I mean, this is obviously a trap. You turn and look back. As you realize there's nothing there, dread hits you. That's your trick. You draw your sword as you turn back to face him. Or your trick, because he's a thug as well. He probably does that to people as well. There's another trick where they ask you what's the time, and you look at your hand or your down to look at your phone, and they hit you and knock you unconscious. He has his palm out and is blowing grey powder like ash into the air towards your face. Oh, he's doing some weird shit. When you awaken, what does that mean? He just blew shit at me. I mean, some ash at me, and I just got knocked out. Is that it? When you awaken, you taste blood in your mouth and hear screaming nearby. Though blurry vision, you see the imp drop your sword to the ground with a clank as steam rises up from his claws. This is such a weird fucking series of sentences. I'm quite confused what's happening. When you awaken, it should be when you turn around. You taste blood in your mouth and hear screaming nearby. Through blurry vision, you see the imp, okay? Drop your sword to the ground with a clank as steam rises up from his claws. Dizzy, you plunge and punch at him. However, your blow is poorly placed. Your fist glances off his rubbery shoulder. He squeals something, runs over, picks up his sack. You get to your feet to pursue, but a fresh wave of dizziness hits you. You stagger, giving the imp enough time to take to air and screaming as he does so. You unsling your bow, fumble for an arrow. By the time you have the arrow notched, the imp is some distance off. You're still too woozy to have a decent chance of hitting him anyway. Did he take the sword then? Because it does not sound like he picked up the sword. Like, I dropped the sword and then he just ran away. By the time you have the arrow notched, the imp is some distance off and you're still too woozy to have a decent chance of hitting him anyways. You put the arrow away, press your hand to your bleeding forehead. Wait, why is my forehead bleeding again? I don't remember him hitting me. You're not sure if your dizziness is from whatever that dust was that the imp blew into your face, or from hitting your head. What did I hit my head into? You sling your bow and stagger after the creature. Thankfully, your head begins to clear quickly. You pick up speed. Nevertheless, even with the burden of his sack, the imp is distancing himself from you, and there's no point in trying to get a range in with your bow. You follow after him as quickly as you can. Ideally, you want to follow him without him realizing it. Fortunately, his long nose allows you to see as he turns his head to look back behind him, at which point you duck behind whatever you can, usually large rocks and occasionally a bush. After a minute or so, the little monster disappears behind a rocky hill. It seems to be going in a straight line, roughly parallel to the river, so with any luck, he's too lazy or stupid to alter his course. As you creep to the top of the hill, you find a nice vantage point. You quickly spot the little bugger. He's on foot again, facing straight ahead as he marches along, seemingly carefree. He then takes flight, but only... Why did this is very confusing. Why did the imp attack us when he didn't even want the sword? I mean, it was clearly saying that he's greedy, and then we got hit in the head, but didn't really get any text about hitting in the head. And then we were asleep, and then we awakened, and then he left without taking the sword. This was so fucking confusing. Anyway, I guess these are some typos and some text missing here and there. They must have not properly proofread it or whatever. Maybe I'm just dumb fucking shit that I can't understand what the fuck they're trying to say. He's on foot again, facing straight ahead as he marches along, seemingly carefree. He then takes flight, but only up a few... like stairs, okay. But only up a few meters to the top of a sheer-sided pillar of rock. Leaps off the end of the rock and vanishes into thin air. He takes flight. Wait, it is an imp, so he should have wings, right? So I guess it makes sense that he's flying. He's not a goblin. But why did he vanish into thin air? Down the slope you go, keeping low and stealthy. Take your time, stopping at intervals behind cover to poke your head up, just enough to watch for trouble. Eventually you make your way to 20 meters or so from the stone the creature leapt off of. He is invisible, you wonder. You look around, suddenly afraid he might be creeping up on you. There's no sign of him and nothing unusual about the rocks from what you can see. With no better option, you sit and wait, allowing yourself a well-deserved rest. Staying hidden behind a screen of thorns, you open the little sack that the merchant gave you and pull out the flask of ale and the pork. With a bite of pork, it really is amazingly tasty. There's a nice hint of spice to it, which is not something you get very often with meat, right? These are medieval times. They probably don't season their stuff because seasoning is expensive. You have a swig of the ale. It's very watered down, making it thirst quenching instead of intoxicating, which is probably good in this situation. That's just as well, since you need to keep your wits about you if you're going to track down Korea. You settle down and wait. Nothing moves, but the birds, a pair of crows, are chasing a small bird through the air. It might be a sparrow, you're not sure. You really don't know about your bird. Suddenly, the sparrow hits something and falls, landing a few meters from the rock pillar. The crow caw joyously as they swoop down after the unfortunate bird and land beside it as it lies helpless. The crows continue to caw at each other as though at each other as they jostle and flap, fighting over the little feathered body between them before they scatter. Something is rushing out of nowhere. It's another one of those imps. This one's taller and has a rotund belly with slapping thighs and flapping breasts, perhaps a female of their kind. She scoops up the sparrow, opens her mouth, gaping mouth wide, drops the bird in, swallowing it whole. She scampers back to her hiding spot, a crevice behind two rocks, lies down on her back, blinking up at the sky. You haven't noticed her before. She must have been very still. Her grey skin blends in reasonably well with the rocks. She either doesn't know you're here or she doesn't care. I think I'm gonna wait and watch then. These imps are up to something, but you have yet to understand what. Ducking from behind your cover, you put your food and ale away, peek over the grass-festooned rock and watch. Another bird drops from the sky, about 20 meters away. Again, the imp swiftly waddles over, swallows it. No wonder her belly is so large, you think. She has been gorging. At best you can tell, these birds are hitting an invisible shield. Instead, you become more convinced of large-scale magic as you some large-scale magic as you stare beyond what might be the shield and occasionally catch a glimpse of a wavering glimmer, a long shadow that appears and disappears in an instant. After two more birds collide with the unseen barrier and eaten by the imp, suddenly your attention is pulled back up the hill. Another imp is running with a sack in his hand, slipping on the Scrabble in his haste, saving his balance with a flap of his wings. As this newcomer approaches the rock, the female leaps up and shouts something in what must be their gravely language. He shouts some words back at her and opens his sack, rummages through it, and triumphantly pulls out a ring. At this, the female emits a high-pitched scream. The imp drops the ring back in the sack and flies up onto the rock pillar, leaps off to the other side, disappearing. Again, the female screams in what should be excitement or rage, and with some straining of her smallish wings, manages to haul her bulk onto the pillar. She also leaps off and is gone. This is my chance, you think. That bird-scarfing imp might have been what qualifies as a guard around here. Now she is gone, time to see what sort of portal this is. Confirming the course is clear, run up for the pillar, leap onto its face. There are plenty of cracks and small ledges, so climbing it is easy. As you leap off the tall slab of stone, you realize that the imps have wings, and you, of course, do not. Hopefully you won't need them on the other side. To your surprise and relief, nothing happens to you. At least nothing you wouldn't expect from jumping off a 3-meter rock. You land hard on the gravel, roll on your feet. However, when you look up, all has changed. You're now in a shadow of a massive stone tower, hovering just above the ground. The air is very still, like being in a room. Well, that's interesting. The air is very still, like being in a room. Flying imps are coming in and out of the windows. I mean, I guess we don't really experience that still wind because like the fans are always running, so there's always moving wind in the fucking room. So still wind is not something, you know, or like the AC is on, you can still feel the air moving, but like still wind, I mean, I guess in winters maybe. Yeah, I guess in winters. Flying imps are coming in and out of the windows, doors of the tower. Instinctively, you take cover behind a nearby boulder. Looking around, you realize that the landscape is exactly as you remember seeing it before you jumped off the slab. It's just that now there is all this extra. The Tower of Drala. Oh shit, it's Drala. She's still around, huh? I'm pretty damn sure she's stronger than our boy. Unless our boy has upgraded since the last time we saw him. In Euxius, she was stronger than Euxius, like a lot stronger than Euxius. Within this, she was a lot stronger than Euxius when we were playing as him. Now I don't know, maybe he has upgraded since then. Tower Drala, the all-seeing, you think. It must be. The stone eyes crowning at the top of the tower is a dead giveaway. Every child in this region of the tower has seen illustrations of Drala's tower, the tower that moves powered by incalculable magic. This is not as tall as the illustrations you remember. Artists like bards tend to exaggerate. Nevertheless, it is certainly as tall as the highest towers of the Duke's castle, and far thicker. The imps don't seem to have spotted you yet. They're preoccupied with their courier duties, interspersed with low-intensity, rather casual air combat, wheeling, swooping, and kicking one another while screeching. One pair high up near the apex of the tower appears to be copulating in the air. It strikes you as both impressive and slightly disturbing. Oh, that's funny, that's funny. Oh, please. Oh, no, 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 no. Is Kriya in there, you wonder? Does she serve Drala? I mean, if she serves Drala, that would be the, like, I could not expect that Kriya's situation could be getting more fucked. I was honestly expecting that Castle Igraine is where her boyfriend lives, and you know, you're probably, yeah, where her boyfriend lives, and or man's, as she says it, and she's probably going to meet him. But Drala is a whole another situation, because if Drala wants that item, the Alathian necklace that we always have on us, well, this is going to be difficult. This is going to be very difficult. That would make sense. There's probably a whole coven of witches in that tower, cackling and mixing foul-smelling potions from a cauldron and whatnot. This is why Azazel's crying showed empty land, you realize. The tower is invisible and probably otherwise protected from magical observation. The tales say that Drala's tower does not walk, rather it hovers as it moves. And this seems to be true. As you look closely, you see it is indeed hovering almost a meter off the ground, anchored by several thick ropes like a ship tethered to a dock at port. With all these creatures in the air, you would like to get some proper cover quickly. Straight ahead, about 10 meters away, are large double doors. Alternatively, you could go. Another alternate would be to hide under the tower itself. Go from there. I think I'm gonna go under the tower. I don't feel like going towards the doors, because if I go towards the doors, like, why would I enter through the doors? That would be kind of, you know, difficult if there's guards inside. Let's hide under the tower. Suicidal tendencies. As they say, fools boldly go where angels fear to tread. I think I've heard that one before, but I'm not 100% sure. You dash forward and dive under the hovering tower. You expect to be crushed somehow by the enormity of what is above you. It feels like normal air, albeit a little claustrophobic. It's also quite dark when you stare into the interior, although at least you can see light on the other side. You crawl in deeper, scanning the sliver of light horizon around you. There is no impediment, which tells you there is no imps crazy enough to go down here. You press your hand to cold stone bottom. It moves slowly. Maybe it is swaying as it anchors from the wind. There is no wind, you think. Perhaps it moves with some sort of restless energy unique to floating witch towers. Maybe there's a trap door down here. When this thing is floating around, wouldn't people want to enter from beneath? If I were to make such a door, where would it be? In the very middle? It's so dark down here, because it's fairly thick, so it makes sense that there wouldn't be much light coming in here. You scoot on your back, which isn't a very fast means of locomotion, but at least you're able to stare closely at the pitted stone above. The deeper you go, the darker it gets. Soon, you're mostly relying on your sense of touch to find this hypothetical portal. Eventually, your hands feel something. A pronounced crack and a latch. You smile briefly, basking in the glow of your intelligence. Unfortunately, after a good amount of fumbling with the gently swaying stone, you confirm that the door is locked. Neville scrotum. Curse in your mind. Where are my cursed lockpicks when I need them? Not that they do any good. There doesn't seem to be a keyhole. It must be locked from inside. You turn over, crawl to the far sides of the tower, the light brightening as you go. By the time you peek out of the edge of the tower, you're nearly blinded by the sun on the side. Looking up, it appears there are fewer imps flying about this area. Maybe they prefer the shadow side. After adjusting your eyes to the light, you consider the tower itself. As you saw earlier, the imps are using all manner of doors and windows up the tower. So if you could just climb up, it might gain a stealthy entrance. Climb up it. Okay, there's a comma. There's supposed to be a comma there. You might be able to gain a stealthy entrance. Of course, the problem is that you'd be plain for all the imps to see as you climb up. That is true.